tender-hearted, kind, compassionate, bright and funny, generous, wildly imaginative, the dark sense of humor, a passionate and prolific artist. These are just a few of the words to describe KJ. We have gathered here today to support one another in our common loss. We gather today conscious of others who have died and the fragility of our own existence. We gather to hear a word of hope and to commend to God with thanksgiving the life of KJ. On behalf of the family and all of us at Rock Spring, welcome. Welcome to this sacred space. Whether you have joined us here in the sanctuary or you have joined us online, however it is that you're here, we are glad that you are a part of this supportive community today. The family has a guest book that if you are here physically, I'm sure you've had the opportunity to sign. We also have a virtual friendship pad, a virtual guest book that you can sign. That is on the streaming page, and you'll find a bulletin to follow along in the service if you are viewing this service from our webpage. And the family would love to know those who are watching and present with us online. Following the service today, you are warmly welcomed to a maybe very cool light reception outside. We still take great COVID precautions here. So the family is going to be, following the service, I will lead the family down to the Segmiller room. It is a room on our lower level. Really, all stairs take you there. We're inviting small groups of people to greet the family, one by, a couple people at a time, and then go outside and get some refreshments. And this can be an organic process, but we don't want a big backlog of people with the family. A small group at a time, and then you can have some refreshments outside. And if you're visiting with the family and you see people wanting to come in, try to keep that moving. Now let us join together in the call to worship. In the darkest valley, at moments of ease, with every step we take, goodness and mercy follow with us, our cup overflow.
Crystal A reading from the book of Revelation, chapter 21, verses 1 through 6. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and the sea was no more. And I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. Excuse me. Prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, "See, the home of God is among mortals. God will dwell with them. They will be God's peoples. And God, as God's self, will be with them and be their God. God will wipe every tear from their eyes. Death will be no more. Mourning and crying and pain will be no more. For the first things have passed away." And the one who was seated on the throne said, "See, I am making all things new." Also he said, "Write this, for these words are trustworthy and true." Then he said to me, "It is done. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. To the thirsty I will give water as a gift from the spring of the water of life." Amen.
Y'all look fabulous. Thank you. During the final weeks of Kay's life, we had a number of discussions about death and dying, and they told me that they really didn't believe that if you went to heaven, that you could look down and see the people that you left behind. But they wished it was true, because they wanted to be able to look down and see how Daniel lived the rest of his life. I think this is a beautiful wish, and I hold it in my heart all the time. And we make many references to heaven throughout this service, and we have 2 musical offerings about heaven, and this is one.
Good afternoon. I am Martha's favorite cousin. Yes. You have come to the end of this pathway in a journey to which we bear witness. You have come to the end of a pathway that is barred with a gate and a door. May this door open swiftly and silently. May this gate give you a moment's grace in which to rest your spirit before you venture through. We stand here with you as your companions, as your family, for you are beloved. But for now, we must remain here. We cannot go with you to this old land, not yet, for you will see the ancestors, you will see the beloved dead, you will walk among the divine beings that guide and nurture us all. You go to dwell in the lands of summer and of apples, where we dance forever youthful, forever free. We can hear the music in the mist, the drums that echo our sad hearts. We can see your bright eyes and your smile. And so we open the gate. We push back the door. We hold the gate open. We glance through the doorway, and with love and grief and wonder, we watch you walk through. Hail the traveler. All those remembered in love, in honor, live on. Farewell, O best love, O fairest, farewell.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike's favorite cousin. My name is Kay Jolkovski. I wrote this poem for KJ and for all of us. I've blended in some phrases from countless friends of KJ's who shared their love and grief online. I have also borrowed one phrase from Dylan Thomas. Elegy for Emily, a life unfinished. Emily, KJ, she, they, each of us knew you in your own way. We reflect all facets of your pure identity. That you would have only 31 years to share your gifts with this world goes against all that we hold true. Life insists on living. The myriad people whose lives you touched, all of us here in body or in spirit, come together to feel your absence. We rage against the dying of your light, and no words will suffice. Beautiful, creative soul, zesty spirit, and kindest heart, you, Emily KJ, as a child of 3, you regaled me with stories of fantastical creatures born in your imagination, as real to you as the person whose hand you held. We played babushka, each of us tying a scarf under our chin to look the part. We danced. You invited me into your magical world. Your warmth and spark drew people to you. Your light helped others to feel seen. You lived with exuberance, creativity, and a mighty sense of justice. Your many beloveds say that you were an incredible artist with big dreams, big ideas, and a big heart, and that you mean the world to me, and I'll never forget you. All of your people come together today to feel your presence. Your presence, today, tomorrow, each day forward, now resides in each of us. We will think of you when we see a unicorn. We will think of you when we see a purple, glowing sky. We will think of you. We will always think of you. We are forever connected through KJ. We hold you close as we let you go.
Her love before, and it's such a sad old feeling. Oh, the fields are soft and green, into memories that I'm stealing. But you're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream. I made a golden promise that we would never part. I gave my love a locket, then I broke her heart, and then I broke her heart. And it's such a sad old feeling. Oh, the fields are soft and green, and it's memories that I'm stealing. But you're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream. We're running through the graveyard, and we laughed, my friends and I, and we swore we'd be together until the day we died, until the day we died. And it's such a sad old feeling. All the fields are soft and green, and it's memories that I'm stealing. But you're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream. And it's such a sad old feeling. Oh, the fields are soft and green, and it's memories that I'm stealing. But you're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream, when you dream. You're innocent when you dream.
Okay, this will be touch and go. We'll all find out together if I'm able to do this. Thank you, Ryan. That was a beautiful rendition, and it's rendered me incapable of human speech, so you may have to talk amongst yourselves. Okay, so let me tell you about my favorite human being. So she's gone by different versions of her name throughout her life. I call her Emily. You can call her whatever you think is best. She never asked me to call her anything else. And I never did call her anything else, unless I was really mad. But we named her Emily Kay Jolkovski, and it's got a nice rhythm to it, you know? Ba-ba-ba-bum-ba-bum-ba. It's like 3 measures of 3/8. And we thought Emily would be a bit of an unusual name, a little old-fashioned and a little. It turned out to be one of the top 10 baby names for girls in 1991, which is proof that free will is an illusion, and being a parent is an endless series of humblings, you know. So in preschool, she spelled her name Emioli, Emioli, because she liked the letter O, and she thought it was unfair that she didn't have one. So I thought the name was a little too sweet, a little too much like a stereotypical suburban white girl name, but that's just my speculation. She always liked her middle name, Kay, and Kay was for my sister, Kay, and for our grandmother, my grandmother, Kathleen Clark Phillips. Kay, my sister, was married here, and Kathleen Clark Phillips and her husband, Hubert, were members here. So it's a name with a lot of family, but Kay's my sister. I can't call Emily Kay. I think if she lived another 100 years, she'd just keep riffing on her name, and it would be just wonderful. So, you know, every family invents itself. You know, often people think like the parents set the tone and the kids follow along. It ain't that way. She was a full partner in evolving who the three of us were, our little mini culture. You know, she helped us invent us. Martha and I were a family before Emily, you know, joined us, but we really needed her input. We like absurdity, okay? We like the contradictions and juxtapositions of life. In our house, irreverence and reverence are considered to be kind of the same thing, like flammable and inflammable. And we like to make each other laugh. And that was a channel of communication that was always open, mostly between me and Emily. And she was funny, but not in a mean way. You know how humor can be mean. You can laugh at someone being ridiculous. It's like, here, that person over there is being ridiculous. It can be kind of mean. But it's better to laugh at all of us being ridiculous. You know, look at us. We're chimpanzees, and we got indoor plumbing, and we think we're fancy, you know. And we got a patchwork civilization and our feeble powers of reasoning. But we're lovable anyway in our ridiculousness. It's okay. I think that was the attitude in her. You know, her cartoon characters were ridiculous and awkward and lumpy and confused. But that was her. For her and for us, you know, humor isn't just yucking it up. It's an essential attitude towards the world. It's appreciating a kind of beauty. So here's an example. Our name, Jolkovski, sometimes gets misspelled. And when Emily graduated from college, there was a big serious ceremony at Madison Square Garden. You know, Congressman John Lewis spoke, and he was so inspiring. And it was all very impressive and grand. And there she is, sitting in her gown. And it came time to pick up her very serious diploma. Of course, they misspelled her last name. And some people will be mad. Some people will be insulted. How dare they, you know? But here she is. Here's the next one. Yeah. It was like the best thing that ever happened. And we got a couple other slides of this, you know, yeah. So that was the highlight of her college career, the misspelling her name. She was never too cool for anything. You know, so some kids will be like they don't want to hang out with little kids because the little kids they're little, you know. Emily would hang out with anybody who had the right attitude. She loved to draw with the little kids. A lot of people here in the church, she drove with them when they were little. She made friends with some adults here, you know, who shared like geeky interests in tabletop games and geeky genre literature. Some of you know who you are. There you are. And she didn't go in for snobbery or pomposity. And I think Martha and I don't respect it that much either. But in Northern Virginia, it's possible to meet people who are quite impressed with themselves. And I can't even imagine what kind of like snobbery or competitiveness she encountered at her fancy New York art school. I think that actually maybe hindered her ability to really be ambitious, because ambition and pomposity kind of they travel together. It's a little complicated. She was innocent and she was guileless, and she just didn't understand it when kids were cruel. Like, well, why are they doing that? They're being mean, but why? She didn't realize that cruelty is its own thing. She was kind of an open book, sharing things that made her vulnerable, and she was brave about representing vulnerable and embarrassing and goofy experiences in her work. She was a lot braver than me in that way, and sometimes I wish she wasn't so brave. As a proud dad, I thought she was brilliant in just the way she saw things. Like a lot of sensitive children, she was able to take in things that were like above her developmental pay grade, and that made life kind of difficult for her. And she worried about things very privately. One time she confessed to me that she had this idea from a very young age that since I'm a psychologist, that she was supposed to be a psychologist too. And it really weighed on her because she didn't want to be a psychologist. And it wasn't even clear, like, did I want her to be a psychologist? Didn't cross my mind once that she should be a psychologist. I don't think anybody should be a psychologist, actually. But so I don't know if it was like a societal rule that she'd be like cast out into the wilderness. I don't know. But she told me this later, and we got a few laughs at like, this is not the 11th century. It's like your father's a stone cutter. You got to be a stone cutter. But it wasn't funny because it really did weigh on her. I think for a couple of years, she had this kind of guilt and burden that was completely insane. But it was a secret, so we didn't have the chance to reassure her. So I think she had worries that I never found out about. I called her my worrier princess. There we go. When she was in preschool, the preschool teacher took Martha aside and said, we're a little worried about Emily because she doesn't know her colors. And Martha's like, come on. Emily knew her colors in the second trimester. She held, this is a blue scrap of paper, and Emily said this was red. And, Martha showed the piece of paper to Emily, and Emily said, I was fooling Mrs. Ryland. And her speech at the time meant it came out, I foodie midi righty. I think she was just bored. They taught her something, and she got it, and they kept teaching her, and so she had to create a little chaos. She loved to draw and paint as a kid. Every kid loves to draw and paint. But there was something, she would wake up Martha in the morning saying, I need to paint. And it was like she was going to explode if she didn't get her images on the paper. And I think the difference really between Emily and other kids is she just didn't stop drawing as she grew older, as many do. She had a special relationship to color. I think she could smell color. I think she could taste color. Colors were her friends. Sometimes they betrayed her. They had distinct personalities. So in elementary school, she did a report on the Black Plague. She had this lovely, dark sense of humor. And she made a drawing of the rat carrying the fleas that infected people with the disease. There he is. And we call him the smirking rat. And it's like, this was maybe, third grade? Something like that. And look at this guy. He's got an inner life. He's got a backstory. This is the main character of the movie. This rat has depth. So later on, she was doing her senior thesis, and we decided to publish it. How about the next one? About, of course, Robespierre, right? Maximilien Robespierre, good old bloodthirsty Max. We could use him these days. But we were going to publish her senior thesis, and we had to make up a publishing house. So here we go, Smirking Rat Productions. She didn't draw pictures, she drew stories. And so we made this horrific mistake, and we brought her to this thing called SPX, the Small Press Expo. They have it in Bethesda every September. I recommend everybody go. It's a bunch of just like brilliant oddballs sitting at tables with their graphic novels. Some of them are famous and some of them are like just starting out. But she said, this is a thing people really do as their lives work. So, Dostoevsky said that when a writer is born into a family, that family is doomed. and I told Emily, when a cartoonist is born into a family, that family didn't have a chance in the first place. It wasn't just a fun thing to do. It was urgently important. It's how she made sense of the world. David Foster Wallace, he said something about like literary, highfalutin literary fiction, that was his arena, his base of operations. He said, what's the point of this art form? He said, it's about being a freaking human being. And I'm paraphrasing just a little bit. And she showed me how true this is. It's how she expressed her humanity. So she went to the School of Visual Arts in New York City. Here we go. She's at a booth at an event. And she studied with some of the greats and some like obscure but gifted teachers. Some of it was exciting. Some of it was very tough. She didn't really tell me what the competitive student art milieu was really like for her, but she wasn't really cut out for that part. She got a lot out of it. Daniel came into her life. Daniel started off as a creative partner, which is perfect. And he's a quiet fellow. He's quiet around us anyway. We called him Silent Bob for like 3 years. But Emily didn't like it. I don't think Daniel liked it. Tough. But he was quiet, but not like aloof. He was just respectful. And once in a while, he would just like say one sentence that was really smart, and we'd say, wait, this guy's got some game. She was happy when she was with him. And they built a sweet home with terrific cats. They had a great partnership. They should have had so much more. That's the part that hurts the most, almost. They should have had 40 years of adventures. So, all right, cancer. April 2021, I was out of town, which I usually wasn't, but she called me, and she said she had ovarian cancer, and she was worried about me, about how upset I would be, whether I could handle it, and that was her entry into, cancer world. Right? And Cancer World, some of you have been to Cancer World. And she spent the last 19 months of her life there, which was 5% of her lifespan. That's a lot of her life was there. And Martha and Daniel and I spent time with her in Cancer World, not really with her, just alongside her. And let me show you, so this is a sequence of photos. It was after her first surgery, all right? So it was a bit of a somber mood, but as we take more pictures, we couldn't stay somber. They cracked each other up, especially Martha and Emily. It just gets weirder, goofier as we go along. It's so beautiful. It's like the mom annoying the daughter, of course, that's a tradition. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite things in the world. So, I was safe behind the camera, but that was what it was like to be with the three of us. There she is. So, people would say, making faces, that she hated it when people said she was so brave and strong. That's a nice thing to say, you're so brave and strong about your treatment. But she kind of hated that because she said, I didn't volunteer for this. Like she didn't volunteer to run into a burning building. The burning building just fell on her. But adversity does reveal character. And, it revealed something that was really made me admire and respect her even more. If I said she didn't complain, I would be a liar. She complained vociferously and eloquently at great length and volume. But she wanted to do everything to save her life. And, the treatments were awful. They involved a lot of pain and a lot of just, endless indignity. And, Daniel cared for her like they had been married for 40 years. So, nobody would have thought badly of him if he said, this is too much for me. I'm just one person. You're two people. I think she should move back to her house. Nobody would have thought badly of her. But it didn't even come up. I don't know if they talked about it. I don't think either of them wanted it. She didn't want to leave him. He didn't want to leave her. So his character was revealed by this too. I don't want to embarrass you, Daniel, but tough. You're going to get praised. Suck it up, Buttercup. And, when cancer came along, it focused her on what was most important to her. She wanted her life so that she could continue her comic art, so she could be with Daniel and their two excellent, cats and their great friends. And it seemed like she really kind of dug down into her comics. She told me she felt responsible. Blisterfish was her epic, and it's a character, and she felt responsibility toward Blisterfish. She owed it to Blisterfish, the protagonist. Even at the end, when they said she should stop treatment, she kept going another couple rounds of chemo. Anything that would give her a little more life. With Daniel, she did not want to leave Daniel. There's a story about a guy goes to his doctor for a regular annual checkup and says, "Hey, doc, how am I doing?" And the doctor says, "Well, don't buy green bananas." And you didn't like that joke as much as I do. Emily never stopped buying green bananas. She never stopped thinking about the future. Martha and Emily loved Advent calendars. And December was the house would be full of Advent calendars. December came around, and Martha said, "You want an Advent calendar?" She says, "Yes, that's a dumb question." So they got a couple of Advent calendars. And one was a Krampus calendar. It had this terrific drawings of these horrible old German monsters at each window. And she only got to open 4 or 5. So, when she died, the world got a little stupider. The world got a little meaner, a little less funny, a little less adorable, and a little less goofy and weird, a little less lovable. So it's all on us to pick up the slack. Okay? We have our marching orders. All right. I'm almost done. I want to end on a note of gratitude, which is easy. I've got plenty of it. Emily wanted her life. I want my life. I wasn't sure I would, after Emily died. I figured my heart would just stop. How does somebody survive such a thing? But, my heart didn't stop. Nope, still going. So far, so good. I want to enjoy my time with Martha as much as we're allowed to have. And I'm grateful to have known Emily, to have been her dad, which is a uniquely infuriating and satisfying, impossible thing. I'm grateful for Martha and for all the loving goodness that's come our way from you guys, from the church, the people here watching, and people watching online, and all the ships at sea. And I'm grateful for Emily's friends who've been so good to her, so impressive, so generous, so patient, so loving. I don't even know about all of them. And of course, I'm so grateful for Daniel. What a gift to see her child loved so well. And this church has been such a source of goodness I've been allowed to partake in. And I've got a kind of an oddball relationship to this church. That'll surprise you, right? The church has been very generous to me as a guy you wouldn't exactly call a believer, exactly call a religious dude. In the same sense, you wouldn't call Tibet a great seafaring nation. So that's our Emily, but I missed her like crazy. Thank you.
This man I know has an apple tree he's hoping will grow. Day after day he waits, and what does he see? Not one apple on the tree. This man I know works all winter, but the tree will not grow till late in spring, with still no fruit to be found. He goes out to chop it down. Lo and behold, like a miracle swept in from the sea. Lo and behold, there's a fog so thick the man can see to cut the tree. Next morning he's all excited, he comes running to me, right there for all to see, way up on a bough, small and weak but hanging on somehow, is a baby apple now.
A reading from the Gospel of Matthew. In the time of King Herod, after Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, Magi from the east came to Jerusalem asking, "Where is the child who has been born King of the Jews? For we observed his star in the east and have come to pay him homage." When King Herod heard this, he was frightened, and all Jerusalem with him. And calling together all the chief priests and scribes of the people, he inquired of them where the Messiah was to be born. They told him, "In Bethlehem of Judea, for so it has been written by the prophet. And you, Bethlehem, in the land of Judah, are by no means least among the rulers of Judah, for from you shall come a ruler who is to shepherd my people, Israel." Then Herod secretly called for the Magi and learned from them the exact time when the star had appeared. Then he sent them to Bethlehem, saying, "Go and search diligently for the child, and when you have found him, bring me word, so that I may also go and pay him homage." When they had heard the king, they set out, and there, ahead of them, went the star that they had seen in the east, until it stopped over the place where the child was. When they saw that the star had stopped, they were overwhelmed with joy. On entering the house, they saw the child with Mary, his mother, and they knelt down and paid him homage. Then, opening their treasure chests, they offered him gifts of gold, frankincense, and myrrh. And having been warned in a dream not to return to Herod, they left for their own country by another road. Herein ends the reading.
title of this message is Home by Another Way. Please pray with me. Holy One, give us what we need in this moment. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you. Amen. There are some journeys that we choose and other journeys that choose us. Kay has had several journeys in her too short of a lifetime. Journeys marked with adventure of color. You've heard some of that. I loved hearing from Martha that when Kay was a small child and Martha was working from home, Martha thought if she spent a good hour focused on Kay, well, she knew this, she could then set Kay up at her drafting table with markers and pencils and drafting paper, and they would stay focused for another 3 hours. Kay had strong attachments to color, and for years, when they drew their family, Mike was purple, Kay was orange, and Martha was red. The attachment was so strong that once when they were asked to draw themselves, they couldn't. And when asked why, they said, "You don't have an orange marker." Their journey with color and drawing and telling stories eventually led them to the School of Visual Arts in New York, and you saw some wonderful pictures of that. Kay had a journey of love with Daniel that began when they met through mutual friends through the Epicure in Fairfax. They had a journey that led them to change their name from Emily to Kay and to identify as non-binary, gender non-conforming. All of those journeys were marked with beautiful and loving stories of growing and becoming, some of which you've heard today. None of us wanted or chose the journey that Kay began in April of 2021 when she was diagnosed with cancer. And I will not say to you today, hear the negative here, I will not say that this was God's will or that everything happens for a reason. Because this sucks. And the pain and the loss are heavy and real. Kate Bowler, who wrote Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved, writes, a lot of Christians like to remind me that heaven is my true home, which makes me want to ask them if they would like to go home first. So I'm not going to tell you any of that, what I consider bad theology. I do want to invite us into a story. Kay loved story. Friday was Epiphany, the 12th day of Christmas. And those of us who do the church thing, we observe Epiphany on the January 6th, and we'll observe it in worship tomorrow. Ashley read the scripture text that is assigned for Epiphany, and it is a story that has captured the wild imaginations of many. The story has been retold in T.S. Eliot's poem, The Journey of the Magi, and by Menotti in his opera Amal and the Night Visitors. Monty Python's Flying Circus told a version of the story in their movie, The Life of Brian. The Magi arrived at Brian's home first, then took their gifts back when they realized their mistake. And James Taylor has sung about them in a song, Home by Another Way. Since this story is found in the Bible, some of you might begin asking questions about historical accuracy or whether or not this story is factual. I love what Barbara Brown Taylor says about that. She writes, "It is not that the facts don't matter. It is just that they don't matter as much as stories do. And stories can be true whether they happened or not. You do not have to do archaeology to find out if they are genuine, or spend years in a library combining ancient texts. There is another way home. You listen to the story. You let it come to life inside of you, and then you decide on the basis of your own tears or laughter whether the story is true." I know Linda Berry was one of Kay's favorite illustrators. And Linda said, "If it is your time, love will track you down like a cruise missile." And I don't know the context in which she said that, to be honest. I heard that Linda Berry was a favorite, and I just started drilling down for things that Linda Berry said. But it jumped out at me as describing what I have seen in so many of you, and through Kay, on this journey that none of us chose. You have companioned her on this unwelcome journey. Love tracked you down. We saw it through Mike and Martha and Daniel, who showed up in countless ways. We saw it in friends who traveled long distance to see Kay this past year, and some who traveled from England to be here today. We saw it in the music being sung and pictures being drawn and prayers spoken and held in our hearts that this journey could be different from what it was. And even more, that love would be felt and held and named and known throughout every step of that journey. We saw it in Kay, who at the end was willing to do anything to hold on to her life, trying things that her doctor even advised against. She had more to do, and she didn't want to leave Daniel. If it's your time, love will track you down like a cruise missile. In Barbara Brown Taylor's children's book titled Home by Another Way, she describes the journey of the very wise men in this way. She writes, "The star was so bright that none of them could tell whether it was burning in the sky or in their own imaginations. But they were wise enough to know that it didn't matter all that much. The point was, something beyond them was calling them, and it was a tug that they had been waiting for all their lives." Martha shared earlier with us that Kay had always said they didn't believe in heaven. But toward the end of their life, they felt a little tug to reconsider. They wished it were true because they wanted to look down on Daniel's life. Perhaps that tug was leading them home by another way. We have a day set aside in the church to celebrate those tugs, to celebrate that nudge or that star that leads us to becoming more fully ourselves, to love more deeply, that guides us to wholeness and true community. But here's the thing. We can't really decide the day we get that star in front of us or feel that tug. But come it will. Today, many of us, many of you may feel as though you are still standing in the dark. Perhaps you don't yet feel a tug or see a star. You have no idea maybe how to even put one foot in front of the other. So I just invite you to sit with the story. Allow yourself to live in it, maybe play in it. Stay open. Pay attention. Because the God who called Kay beloved, and who calls you and me and all creation beloved, that God who we know as love will tug. Tug at our hearts, or give us a star that we can't ignore, and lead us home by another way. Amen.
For many years, Rock Spring held a family retreat up at West Virginia in February, and we first took Kay when they were about 3 years old, and they did not want to leave. They wanted to live there forever, and they called it When the Church Goes to the Woods. On Saturday night at the retreat, we would have a progressive dinner, and we'd end up in a big cabin and sing songs and eat lots of dessert. And I don't remember exactly when this started, but at some point, Kay latched onto this one song that they loved to sing and that they requested every year. And that song was... Thank you. They loved to sing this song. And someone, Ashley, had suggested that we might want to sing this song here today, and I suggested that to Kay. And they grinned, the biggest grin I'd seen in a while, and said, "You have to do it. All I ask is that you sing it with the same unbridled enthusiasm that Kay did."
Let me tell you the story of a man named Charlie on a tragic and fateful day. He put 10 cents in his pocket and he kissed his white family, and on the MTA. Well, did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. Poor Charlie, he may ride forever the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Charlie handed his diamond at the Kendall Square station, and he changed for Jamaica Plain. When he got there, conductor told him one more nickel, and couldn't get off that train. Did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. He may ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Now all night long Charlie rides to the station crying, what will become of me? And then I'll see my wife in Cheshire, my cousin in Roxbury. Now did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. Poor Charlie, ride forever 'neath the streets of Boston. He's a man who never returned. Charlie's wife goes down to the Scully Square station every day at 2:15. He handles a sandwich as the train comes rumbling through. But did he ever return? No, he never returned, and his fate is still unlearned. Poor Charlie, ride forever meets the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned. Now you citizens of Boston, don't you think it's a scandal after people to pay and pay? Fight the fare increase, vote for George O'Brien, and get Charlie off the MTA. Or he'll never return, no, he'll never return, and his fate is still unlearned. Poor Charlie, ride forever, meet the streets of Boston. He's the man who never returned.
That's a hard one to follow. I invite us to be together in a spirit of prayer. Holy One, maker of earth, heaven, creator of colors, giver of laughter, one who comes alongside us in our grief. We give thanks for your beloved in creation, Kay, and for the particular shape of their life, for their love of songs sung in West Virginia cabins, of epicure, of board games played with friends, of cats James and Baxter curled up nearby, for their belief in magical card games and in magical connections between people, for the way they made people laugh even when the conditions were not good, for Kay's ability to see not just what was happening in this world, but what could be happening in other worlds imagined into being, like blisterfish and Pigeon's invisible castle, for the universes that they created, making with their life their own kind of Genesis story once again, for their understanding that sometimes the truest and best stories are told through art and fiction, for the way they believed in collective good and collective empathy, and going all in for something that counts, for their delight in pumpkin pie and patch jackets, and anything shared with Daniel, Martha's grilled cheese paired with tomato soup, and hearing Mike play notes on a saxophone. We give thanks for the way that Kay obliterated the common and the ordinary and made their greatest investment relationships. Ever-present One, be especially near to Martha, Mike, and Daniel. Honor their grief. Let their mourning be an honest offering. Surprise them with the feeling of Kay's presence nearby. Meet them with memories and moments that transcend the present. And to all who grieve Kay, may that grief be more than met by the unshakable love that remains. May that grief lead us to rise more fully into this present moment and to show up for each other, forgiving slights, looking for the good, and continuing to live with some piece of the awe and wonder and irreverence that Kay passed on. And now into your hands, ever-loving God, we commend your servant, Emily Kay Jolkovski. Receive them as a creator in your eternal comic book, as a maker of art and empathy and stories that cannot be finished because they never end. Receive Kay into the depth of your mercy and the companionship of your grace and the blessed and feisty rest of everlasting peace. We give thanks that for Kay all sickness and pain and even death itself is past. We praise Kay for who they were to all of us. May they join in the colorful company of all the saints in light. Amen.
Well, the moon is broken and the sky is cracked. Come on up to the house. The only things that you can see is all that you lack. Come on up to the house. All your crying don't do no good. Come on up to the house. Come down off the cross and we can use the wood. You got to come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. Come on up to the house. There's no light in the tunnel, no irons in the fire. Come on up to the house. And you're singing lead soprano in a junk man's choir. You got to come on up to the house. Does life seem nasty, brutish and short? Come on up to the house. And the seas are stormy and you can't find no port. Got to come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. You got to come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. You got to come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. You got to come on up to the house. There's nothing in the world that you can do. Come on up to the house. And you've been whipped by the forces that are inside you. You got to come on up to the house. Well, you're high on top of your mountain of woe. Come on up to the house. Well, you know you should surrender, but you can't let it go. You got to come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. You got to come on up to the house. You got to come on up to the house. Come on up to the house. The world is not my home, I'm just a passing through. You got to come on up to the house. You got to come on up to the house. You got to come on up to the house.
As you leave this place today, know that you, with all your color and complexity, you are beloved. Now may the peace of God that passes all of our understanding, may that peace of God be yours this day. And may we stay open to nudges, tugs, stars, whatever leads us, whatever helps us walk one another home. Amen.